Hey everyone, before this video starts, I'd like to give a special thank you to all my Patreon and Twitch subscribers. If you'd like to learn how to support this channel, possibly for free, just hang out till the end of the video. Thanks so much for watching, guys.
Lucky. They received it so well, but it's
How did your parents react to you losing your virginity at 13? Holy shit.
because it was a cute situation. I was so in love with my little 13-year-old boyfriend. We're both 13.
Okay,
We've been best
that's
friends
weird.
and spent every single day together since 7th grade. And so, like, first week of freshman year of high school, we went into my playroom at my house and just tried things on the couch. We were so curious and had no idea what we were doing. And it was so fun and awkward and silly. My parents were out gardening or something. And I ended up telling my best friend. And so she ended up losing hers like 2 days later and then telling the whole school. So then I had to tell my mom. And I remember sitting in the car on the way to the gym, all like balled up in the passenger seat and like facing away from her like this. And I was like, Mom, I have to tell you something.
I wonder, because like when you're a kid, your experience with sex is really different usually. Usually there's not like a lot of like insertion or anything because you're a dumb kid that's uneducated on the interaction. So I wonder if when she says I lost my V card, if she really meant that like her and her 13-year-old boyfriend, I guess they were both 13 at the time, did stuff together that wasn't like that wouldn't generally constitute losing your V card because kids are very unintelligent when it comes to interactions like that. The red flag for me, more than anything else, would be if one of them was educated on the interaction deeply, because to me that would suggest that one of them may have had a inappropriate interaction with somebody that's an adult. Because again, 13-year-olds really aren't super educated on like the right way to do these things. So that's the big red flag here, because there's a lot of comments that are like, oh man, this seems like a really bad situation. I'm going to watch the rest of it. But whether people want to understand this or admit this or not, like kids usually are more explorative than we like to talk about. And it's not a comfortable thing to talk about, but it is kind of true. Like kids are feeling some type of way when they're young. I think the problem is a lot of times when people make that statement, it's usually somebody who is like attracted to kids that's like trying to make an argument that like we should be able to sleep with kids because they have hormones, which is just not true. I think it's weird and uncomfortable for two 13-year-olds to experiment, but I also think it's kind of normal. It is kind of normal for younger people to explore in like whatever ways that they want to. It's something that we really don't talk about at all. We really don't talk about this, but like young men, well, not even young men, young kids in general, they experiment sexually with each other, with their friends, and sometimes their family members in a weird way. I know that sounds really uncomfortable, but like 8-year-olds are weirdos that don't understand boundaries or anything in general. The interesting thing is it also gets into a conversation because this is behavior that is not, when it comes to, like Illuminati fucking putting his balls on his cousin's head. Fucking weirdo. But like it's the interesting thing is that gets into a conversation because young girls, this behavior isn't encouraged or discouraged when they're younger, but for young boys, this behavior is discouraged. It's very interesting. So like if you're young girls, this is actually more common than I knew of. It wasn't until I talked to my wife about it. A lot of young girls, like it's normal for them to kind of mess around with their friends, and for young boys though, it's not. It's not really normal. It's something that you're told not to do because it's wrong. And it's interesting that the feedback that you get for young boys is like, oh, you're doing is bad, but for young girls that there's no feedback. It's just like ignored as a behavior, and it kind of gets into a whole conversation about, honestly, like. You'd say like kind of like a normalized like homophobia, especially against gay men. So,
But you're going to be mad at me and you can't be mad or I'm not going to tell you. And she was like, what? Spit it out. And I told her and she was like, all right, that's fine. Like she's known I'm a very sexual person. She told me when I was like 11, she's like, we're very sexual people and you're going to have to learn how to control it and not let it control you. So
it's a little bit of a weird thing to say to an 11-year-old. I wonder what prompted the mom to tell her that.
And so she took me to a gynecologist because she was retired at the time.
Kind of messed up that she didn't take her to a girl gynecologist, if you know what I'm saying. You know what I mean?
She took me to her old partner in practice who actually delivered me. And it was just a really educational, cool experience.
Oh, what?
And so she took me to a gynecologist because she was retired at the time. She took me to her old partner in practice who actually delivered me. And it was just a really
How weird is that? Do you deliver a kid and then you gotta explain sexual intercourse to them? That's just fucking weird.
educational, cool experience. I would start birth control soon after that.
Is that young to start birth control? 13, 14 years old? I know that it has more positive impacts than just making it so you don't get pregnant. I know it also has like regulatory impacts, like it helps you regulate your period and it makes it a little more comfortable. And in a lot of cases, it can, if you have a very heavy flow, it can reduce the heaviness of the flow and et cetera, et cetera. I just don't really know. Is that the average age? I don't really know. That's more of like a girl thing to say.
But the hardest
You started at 14? Okay. 13 and 14 is the starting time for girls. Oh, okay. There you go. Does it have a lot of negative side effects? And my wife says no. That's just a no. Okay. Yeah, my guy will deliver me a no. Okay. I don't. Oh, let's see. We'll look into that really quick. Average age girls go on birth control. Age 16 tends to be the most common age to start. Okay, so it seems like it might be a little early, but from oh, you don't remember what I said? Okay. It seems like 16 is the normal starting age, but it's not uncommon for 13 or 14. There seems to be a lot of women in here saying they started a little bit earlier. So, okay. Okay. You regulate your period and you think it contributes to your depression as a teen? I wouldn't doubt it. Hormones are raging in general, but it's very interesting though. It gives you big boobies. Does it really give you big boobies? It's a very interesting because when it comes to the trans conversation, we discourage kids from medically transitioning, which I tend to agree with. That's a conversation for another day. But then we're okay with giving birth control to girls. That also kind of messes with your hormones. So I wonder if there's a level of cognitive dissonance there.
She knew I had it once. Okay, that's fine.
I must have had birth control. If your boobs grow from it, I must have got a lot of birth control. If you know what I'm saying.
But then, we still weren't allowed to be in a bedroom alone together or like have the door closed. So one day I told her I had an after school club, which I had a lot of those. So it was very believable. But instead I went to my boyfriend's house that was close to school and his parents were never around. And we did it again there, and it was way more intense and real that time. And I ended up getting a urinary tract infection.
Well, at least the mom wasn't encouraging the behavior. She was like, oh, I wouldn't let them have the door closed, so I went to a club. I lied to my mom. But how the fuck did you get a UTI, you dirty bitch? What the fuck? I'm sorry. I gotta stop saying that. My wife just calls me a bitch all the time. We say it for fun to each other, and now it's like ingrained in me. But how the fuck did you do that, you dirty motherfucker? What the hell?
But I didn't know what that was at the time. So I figured out when I was on vacation, like 4 days later with my mom, and it was burning so bad every time I peed. Like it just hurt so bad all the time. I felt like I was dying. I thought it was an STD, so I did not want to tell my mom. I was like, she's going to know I did it again, and I just really don't want to have this conversation again that I like snuck behind her back and did it.
Okay.
But eventually I had to because I literally couldn't walk. And that went well too. She was like,
I guess that's like a new it gives a new meaning to fucked you till you couldn't walk, huh? I actually gave you a UTI. Yeah, I fucked her so good she couldn't walk. Really? Yeah, I gave her a UTI.
like, I wish you had told me instead of not making yourself suffer, because it turns out it's a genetic thing, and her and
genetic horniness and UTIs. Holy shit! What a double barrel blast.
My grandma
Mama Gut says that you got to pee after you do the deed. It lowers your chance of getting a UTI. Fair enough.
Every time they have it too. So she's always just been amazing, and my dad doesn't care at all.
Honestly, people are criticizing this whole thing, but that didn't sound that wrong. It's just an uncomfortable conversation, and you could tell it's weird that it's a bunch of like kids who are the ones commenting on it. Yeah, it's actually really interesting because one of the biggest problems with our sexual health education in schools, sorry, I'm readjusting my back so is that we don't teach sex in the correct way to kids. We teach it a lot of times even programs that practice like safer sex methods still kind of practice abstinence to some effect, rather than educating on, it's like, well, your kids are probably going to experiment, so do it safely, you know. Like, yeah, the uncomfortable reality is that younger kids are they have sexual desires for each other. It's weird and uncomfortable, but as long as it's a reasonable age range, like 2 13-year-olds, like, okay, it's really uncomfortable, but like there's nothing inherently wrong with it. It's just really weird. So yeah, this seems like the mother was pretty open about it, being a mom and understanding being what a girl was like. And the dad not really wanting to talk about it. It makes perfect sense to me, because if it was me, if I had a daughter that was like 13 and sexually active, bro, I'd be like, you can take care of this one, babe. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not messing with that one. I'm not talking about that with my daughter. That's fucking crazy. So this actually seemed like a pretty reasonable video here. It's really uncomfortable, but it seems that it's not that bad. I feel like everybody's just like being very emotionally reactive to this. Yeah, they're just experimenting. So, okay.
Thank you so much for watching, guys, and another special shout out to all my Patreon and Twitch subs. If you'd like to support this channel further than you already have by just watching the video alone, go down to the links below where you can sub on my Patreon, which will allow you to get your name on this beautiful black wall. Or you can go to the Twitch page and you can actually use a free Amazon Prime sub, if you have Amazon Prime, to subscribe. Thank you very much, guys. Take care.